Hello and good morning, everyone. It is so wonderful to see so many familiar faces. Thank you all for coming out. I know we are set up for a treat this morning with our Breakfast at Blake speaker, Steve Nilsen. My name is Diane Cruchon. I'm also a member of the class of '88. And I also am an employee here at the Blake School, along with my colleague, Bill Colburn. We are both excited to be able to introduce our speaker this morning. And we want to thank John Friedel and the Alumni Board and the Advancement Office for sponsoring this event. I've been needling John for a long time to try to get Steve Nilsen here for the Breakfast at Blake. So thank you for making it happen. I know it's going to be great. I'm going to invite my colleague and good friend Bill Colburn up to share a few things about Steve.
Thank you, Diane. Yeah, it's great to see you all. This feels like a reunion. We're pleased to introduce Steve Nilsen, class of '88, who is our featured speaker this morning. Currently the Vice President of Cult Indoctrination at the beverage company Liquid Death. He started his career at Airwalk as a snowboard boot developer and then snow division manager. And when he was at Airwalk, we were all just out of college, and I was starting my career as an art teacher, high school art teacher, and I had introduced an art history class to the school where I was at, and I emailed Steve, and I said, Steve, I'm teaching a course called 20th Century Art History, and I want a better name. And he emailed me back in 2 minutes with a list of about 15 possibilities. This is true, and there was, Van Gogh's ear and Frida Kahlo's stare and this and this. He clearly just thought of everything he could think of with 20th century art and just gave it to me. And I just asked him if he remembers this. He said, yeah, didn't it end up becoming earlobe soup? And I said, yes. So it became earlobe soup from Van Gogh to Warhol and beyond, 20th century art criticism. That was the name of the course. Thank you, Steve, for that. He's a very creative soul. He went on to be one of the first sports marketing managers at Red Bull North America, followed by creating the lifestyle marketing program for Pabst Brewing Company, where he pushed the limits on creative branding and grew their portfolio from 250 million to almost $1 billion. Liquid Death is among the fastest growing water and iced tea brands in retail, recently raising new capital that values the startup at $1.4 billion, and is the most followed beverage brand on TikTok, and the third most on Instagram. In his talk, Nilsen will discuss how his company is tackling the plastic problem, the strategy for growing the brand on a near zero budget, and his advice for marketing sustainability. Almost.
Now, we have a lot to say here about Steve. Steve received his undergraduate degree in mass communication and media studies from Hamline University, where, believe it or not, he played both football and hockey. Do you believe that, Ed? Besides his athletic prowess on the ice and on the field, Steve's always been known for his engaging personality, his wonderful optimism, his generosity and kindness to all he comes in contact with. As we will soon see, Steve is a great storyteller. He is ridiculously funny, wickedly clever, and keenly perceptive, all of which he's drawn upon in his positions that Bill just mentioned. When he's not traveling the world, Steve spends time in Evergreen with his partner, Charmaine, who's here with us today. His mother, Shirley, is here with us today. His brother and sister and niece and nephew are here also today. We are so excited for Steve to be here. Steve also has 2 twin boys, Rowan and Gordy. And if you did not know, Gordy, his son, is named after Gordy Aamoth, who was Steve's best friend in high school and classmates of Bill and I and many classmates here today. Continuing in the steps of Steve, both of his sons are Division I athletes. Gordy running at Pepperdine and Rowan at Loyola Marymount. And Steve also, when he's in Colorado and the weather permits, he loves snowboarding, water skiing in Minnesota, and hanging out with friends when he's in town. If you would join me, please, let's give a big round of applause for Steve Nilsen, Vice President of the Cult of Indoctrination.
Well, that's quite the intro. Thanks for keeping it PG. So, this is my kindergarten photo. And Mom, that's not the official Vikings Fran Tarkington tarp as you wear. That's a generic one, but we'll let it slide. So I started here in 1975. So this would be my kindergarten class. And what's interesting is there's a few here that we actually went kindergarten through 12th grade. I think there's 5 of us here that went through that whole time. My dear friend Dino is up in the right corner there. He's here today. God bless you, Dino. And look at Jim Rian. I mean, the dude, how he's allowed around at school with that caterpillar. I mean, look at that. Seriously. Mrs. Neff, truth be told, Mrs. Polisek, I thought she was a smoke show back then. Mrs. Nelson became her name. I don't know if she's still here. So this is our class. Not everybody made it through, but it was beginning of a wonderful journey. So we had a very, very tight group of people for our class. I'm sure you could argue every class has this group of friends that are together. This is our senior, these are all the seniors. Our late friend Gordy, late friend, God bless him, Chuck and Quinn. And that's something I'll never forget. And we do, as they had alluded to, Dion and Bigness, that's what we call Bill, we had a tight group. So it's something that, you know, what's amazing to me is I'm staring out at, Gordy gets a stadium and we get eggs, you know. You know, who would have thunk it, right? So this will always have a special place in my heart because for a guy like me, Diane, did you take my notes?
My notes.
Jesus.
Got you.
Yeah. But I have a story to tell that no one knows this story at all. I've never told anyone. Mother, you're not going to be happy with me at all about this one. But so for those of you who don't know, there's a tunnel that goes across underneath the courtyard. Okay, it's kind of creepy, whatever. And there was a kid that let's just say he was relieved of his academic duty and did not finish Blake. And I were walking by, and for some reason, I don't know why, we spit down the stairs. Okay, go with me here. I know that's gross. It's not, I'm sorry. But Mr. Rian, Mr. Caterpillar, caught us. And she said, we're going to go to see Miss Rayburn. That was her name. She was our principal at the time. And I pretty much almost defecated in my pants because I thought there's no way my mother and father are going to be so disappointed. So disappointed. But in Blake fashion, instead of dropping the hammer on me, Mrs. Rayburn said, why did you do that? What did you do? And I said, I spit down the stairs. She said, well, we're not going to tell Doc and Cheryl, that would be my father, but you're going to write a report on saliva. So I know what saliva is, it hands or anything like that, but it saved me from just, instead of being reprimanded, that's a Blake way, right? We're going to take it, make it a learning moment. And it's something I'll never forget. And it was not, I'm not proud of that, Mom, I get it, but that is so Blake, right? Where instead of just trying to really make up a situation technically worse for me, it was a learning moment. So the other question I guess comes up is, how long, Diane? Yeah. How long did you play keyboard for Prince, man? No, literally. So Blake got me, and this is Bob Teslow. He got me. I really got hooked on photography. Love photography. To this day, I still shoot. I'm not very good, but I do the best I can. So this is one I actually developed in the darkroom here at Blake, which is super fun when I think back on it. And to this day, I again still enjoy it. So now this next one, you're going to be like, oh, that's very vain. why are you showing us this photo? So there's a story behind it, okay? Water skiing, like, okay, great, you're a water skier. So what happened is, speaking getting reprimanded, we were with friends, we skipped school to go, hence the wetsuit, to go ski on Lake Minnetonka. And we got busted because Bob Tesla was like, dude, you just developed that? Obviously, we got busted because we skipped school. So literally in the dark room, we were all excited about the photo, and we got in trouble because we skipped school. So that's why that sounds very vain that I'm showing a picture of water skiing. But you know, what come to mind when I think about Blake is, you know, one of the things that I've been blessed with is being able to speak in public, and it probably shocks you. I don't have a problem with that. But I think that, you know, we had to do an 8th grade speech. We had a speech our senior year. Miss Mraz, I want to say was her name. And that's something that has served me my whole career, my whole life. But, you know, being organized, being punctual, it's kind of safe harbor, if you will. And again, I have lifelong friends because of it. So I've got moving on, this photo here. Let's make this doctor, we were celebrating. So we graduated here. Okay, so this is down at the softball field. But I need to point something out here. My classmate Eric Larson is here, Lee Selstead. That's John Dolan. He had left Blake. He ended up winning a national championship in lacrosse at North Carolina. But my late friend Gordy, this is so indicative of him. So he's right in the mix. He's pumping a keg that's above his head. That's so Gordy, right? Not paying any attention whatsoever. And that just pretty much sums up Gordy right there. But anyway, we were celebrating the fact we all made it through. So let's fast forward. And this is where I was trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my life. So through college, and I get out and I moved to Australia. And it was more, I had a job down there, but whatever. It was more of an excuse to try to learn to surf and whatnot. And so it was a band that was popular back in the day called Soul Asylum. And it stopped me. I'm like, wow, they're going to be down here in Australia. How amazing is it? I took this photo. And I started just walking around trying to figure out what am I going to do, what am I going to do with my life? Because at the time, there wasn't tech. There wasn't that it was, you're going to be a doctor, a lawyer, maybe real estate, but Wall Street. Hence, Gordy. And none of those things were interesting to me at all. Not at all. I'd rather step off a bridge. And this photo changed my life. And I know it's weird. You're like, why is it? It's a skateboarder. Like, what's the deal? So I lived in Bondi Beach, and I had this epiphany. And I was learning, again, the surf was right there, and I was like, I want to be in action sports. I want to be in action sports. So I kept this photo with me, and I was like, how can I break into this? So fortunately, my parents, you know, it was very important to them to education. And I was very fortunate that my father said, as long as you want to go to school, it's that important to me. And I'm like, you know, I'm the only one in my family without a graduate degree. It's not that important. Like, there's nothing I could do for my career that I would transfer from school. So I ended up coming back to the United States, and I ended up going to this thing called Warped Tour, which is basically, it was a festival that traveled around the United States, and it revolved around skateboarding, but everything about it, the music, the way people dressed, the skateboarding, everything, I was like, I got to somehow get involved with this. So I came back, and depression's real. Like, I was sitting in my parents' living room, like calling companies, like, I want to work for you, I want to work for you. There was no internet at this point. Not getting anywhere, so frustrated. And so I was taking ads for brands that I admired, and I would tear them out, and I would redo them, and I'd like to think they were funny, and I'm sending them to companies. Not getting anywhere. So there was a brand called Airwalk, which was the brand at the time. It was the coolest brand. It was pretty much leading the charge in any kind of cultural fabric out there. So I made all these ads and started sending them to them, and I found my brother had taught me, you don't go through HR, you go through who you want to work for. So this woman was VP of marketing. I kept hammering her, and I was literally calling on the phone, and she picked up. And said, hey, it's Steve Nilsen. And she goes, oh, it's you, kid. Yeah. She goes, I got all your emails. She goes, listen, okay, my house just burned down, and I've got to go to Europe in 5 hours. So I sent her a smoke detector in the mail. And she's like, you are absolutely crazy. She's like, I have got to fly you out. So I flew out and I got the job. And that's how I started my career. So that's what it looked like back in the day. It was Airwalk footwear, right? So back to the music thing. It's all going to tie together. So there's these young kids that I started giving shoes to. And this is a band called Blink 182. This is from 1996, this photo. Perhaps you've heard of them. So because of my love of music and growing up in Minneapolis, Gordy, Diane, because everyone being the epicenter of music, I started giving shoes to bands. Like, think about it. When you're on tour, whatever, you want socks, you want shoes, and I started doing that. And the company was like, great, go ahead and knock yourself out. So I actually went on that Warped Tour and was giving shoes to all the bands, who I'm still friends with to this day, which is crazy town. And I was able to parlay that into, because I was always squawking about our product, they put me in product development. So Blake had taught me organization, how you timelines, and I had to learn timeline, production, raw materials, all these things. I started building snowboard boots. Perhaps you recognize this guy. His name is Tony Hawk. He was like our marquee athlete at the time. Again, we're going to come back to Tony later. So I was a pig in mud. Like I found my place. And so this is me. I'd spend 3 weeks a month in Asia building snowboard boots. And it's called the free ride. That strap, by the way, does not do anything. It just looked cool. It's called the power strap. But anyway, so I got to learn production, which to this day I still love. And I could look at what you're wearing and look at your, the bar tack on your belt loop, right? So I'm building these boots, and I get a call. And his name's Frederick Sarbell. These are the guys I was building boots for. He's a Swedish snowboarder. And I get a call one day, and from this thing, just 21 years ago, and it's called Red Bull. No idea what it was. And they said, hey, we're trying to break into America. Hey, you work with snowboard athletes. We have a couple here. Would you be interested in coming and talking to us? And I said, sure. Like, I'm very curious what this is. And it turned out to be one of the best decisions of my life. So I was one of the original 5 sports marketing managers in North America for Red Bull. And it just opened up a world of possibilities because they have very, very deep pockets. And if you know anyone who's Austrian, they don't mess around. They're very serious, and they get things done. And that was very expected. So the bar was raised very, very high, where they said that money is not an issue. Make it happen. We want to make headlines here. I learned a ton being at Red Bull. So I took their advice, and I actually went and bought my own snowcat. And yeah, so I have a record at Red Bull of expensing $192,000. So, but the best part is they didn't even bat an eye. So I kept this in Colorado, and I created this program called Cat Tracks, where it's the biggest cat you can get. You don't have to take the tracks off to trailer it. And I would go to mountain passes and take people snowboarding or skiing, right? And they loved it because it got people talking, word of mouth. And as you know in marketing, the most important thing in the world is word of mouth, right? Whatever your friends like or your peers, that's really, really important. So I'm sitting there going, okay, this is amazing. Like, great, what else we got? And the Austrian said, hey, we have a guy that we're going to sign. We need your help. So if you look at this picture, this is in Silverton, Colorado. And look right here. See that? That's a half pipe. So they said, hey, we need you to work with this kid named Sean White. So I'm like, okay. So I, because of my background with being a developer, I had to stay within budget, but we literally had to helicopter everything into the backcountry. And that's so Red Bull, right? But there was a method to the madness because they signed him because it was an Olympic year. So we built this half pipe so he had his own private place to practice all of his tricks. Nobody saw it, and he ended up winning Vancouver Olympics. Now I had moved on by the time he actually had gotten to the Olympics to another brand, which I'll get into. But he ended up winning the gold, but that's so Red Bull, right? They knew it was an Olympic year. It was a wonderful story, and they ended up calling Project X, and they actually did a special during the Olympics on the building of the pipe and everything like that. So Sean, this is what it looked like. He had his own private spot with a foam pit at the end so he wouldn't get hurt. So that was the last project I worked on at Red Bull. And then I get a call from this beer company called Pabst Blue Ribbon, right? Which anyone who knows that, it gives you just a violent headache if you drink it. And so they come calling, and the brand is from 1844. It's actually an American classic, but it had just kind of gone away. And the athletes I worked with at Red Bull, for whatever reason, I could give them whatever bottle service they wanted, whatever naughty thing they wanted. And they kept asking for this Pabst Blue Ribbon. And I'm like, why do you want this swill? That's the stuff that Gordy and I used to use a fake ID at Knollwood Liquors. And so I realized something really quick, that they had something that Red Bull didn't, and that was street cred. And back to what I was saying about word of mouth. It was like, so I kind of treated this as, though I didn't have any money, I went from the penthouse to the poorhouse budget-wise, I had something that Red Bull didn't. That was literally this groundswell of people, the word of mouth. And if you had that can in your hand, you were the cool kid in the room. And the aha moment I had there was I got a call from a high-end fashion brand, in Fashion Week in New York City. And they said, hey, we'd love to have Pabst at our event. And it was some shishi Prada thing, whatever. And I said, done, but I need to come. So I went to this thing, and in the backstage, it was Chandon, I want to say, and Pabst, and some shishi water. And I looked around, and all the models were carrying the Pabst. And they looked like they were going to vomit. They probably were going to vomit. But they look cool. And that's when I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. We're onto something here. This is like, it's the brand. It's bigger than the liquid. So I took that to the nth degree. I could do all the things again that Red Bull couldn't. So this is me at the brewery. So I had to go to beer school, right? Who does that? I thought I was done with school. I had to go to school again. So here's outside the brewery, and I was at beer school, which is reeks, by the way, and started building this culture. And again, it was more of, every event, good or bad, what do we want to look at, it needs alcohol. And what I did was I spent all my budget on getting beers to people. Well, I still do this day, but so taking care of the kids. And I know that, we don't want to condone this, I get it, I understand, but I'd be lying to you if I didn't want to be the Aspire 2 beer for the kids, right? So literally, I was almost 9 years building this thing. And as they had alluded to, we actually did quite well. I always joked that our portfolio was all the beers that made you feel crappy in college, because we did have a lot, the sub-premium. But it was at the point where people were literally tattooing their bodies. And if you recognize this athlete, he's actually one of the guys I worked with at Red Bull, Travis Pastrana, Pabst belt buckle, Pabst wristband. Like, I didn't even ask him to, right? But if you look at this sign, it's one of my favorites. When I knew we were onto something. This is 2011, literally talking people off a ledge at a ski area. It just says out of PBR, but it's okay, you're gonna be all right. Just take a deep breath, let it out, and order another beer. We will have more soon, but today ain't the day. So that was like the best thing ever. Demand, right? Creating this demand. So we ended up, the rebirth place of Pabst was Portland, Oregon. So we decided, let's take advantage of this and do a thing that's called Project Pabst, where we did it in Portland, we did it in Denver, we did it in Atlanta, we did it in Philly. And major acts started coming and saying, again, back to my days of doing Warped Tour and all that, and it's old hat to me. Speaking of photos, I took this. This is of Mr. Ice Cube. I took this photo, and that's in Portland, Oregon. Nicest guy in the world, by the way. All business. Really, really good guy. So I'm just like, wow, this is, we've really captured lightning in a bottle here. I haven't even looked at my notes. So we had the increase in sales, and it was cranking. So back to snowboarding, I get this through snowboarding, and that's Mike, both pictures. That's the founder of Liquid Death. So how do we meet? Snowboarding. So we start talking, and he said, I have this idea, because I have this thing, I get a canned water. And I'm like, what? And he goes, hey, I watched what you did. I've followed you. Airwalk, Red Bull, Pabst Blue Ribbon. What you've done, I'd love to talk to you about coming aboard to help me build this thing. And I was taken aback. I didn't really know, but the one thing you don't know about Mike, and you can Google him, now he's all over the place. He was fired from every job he'd ever had as a creative. And he'd worked on Netflix, he'd worked on Nike. And he finally just snapped one day because he pitched some really funny ideas. He's a very funny guy, really funny ideas, and they chose the weakest one. And he finally just snapped and said, give me $100,000 to put it in a suitcase, I'm gonna light it on fire, because that's what you're gonna get out of this campaign. I'm done, I'm out. And had this idea, and he said, why is it that everything that's crappy for you, Doritos, Skittles, has the most fun in marketing? Why isn't it the healthiest thing in the world? We can't have fun with it. But on top of that, bring to the front the sustainability issue we have. And I'm embarrassed to say I did not realize the plastic problem. I did not know the degree. So we had set forth, it was 6 of us in 2019, 6 people. And fast forward, now Mike always says every day you should wake up and say, how can we make sustainability in drinking water 50 times more cool? That's it. So if you look at some of the people here, and if you remember I mentioned Blink-182 before, there's Travis Barker, he's a drummer for Blink-182, he's an investor, right? So all these things are the circle's starting to close in my career here of the places I had been. Again, if you see a celebrity, if you see an athlete rocking Liquid Death, we don't pay them. They're either an investor, they're doing it because they love us. And that's, again, word of mouth. So but pre-pandemic, I got a call from an ex-Red Bull person who's at Live Nation. For those of you who don't know, they produce concerts and events all over the world. And they were kind of arrogant, to be honest with you. And I'm like, listen, dude, I have 1 can of water, and that's all I got. I got nothing else. And like, well, whatever, we're Live Nation, dude. Well, the world fell apart. Their business went in the tank because it's live music. And they came back in 2020 and actually put a big investment into Liquid Death. The cool thing is now we're in all their venues, all their festivals, and their water sales are up 40%. And the thing is that with this, being sober is cool. It really is. And there's a movement. I'm a mentor for the business school at the University of Colorado, and just talking to the kids, being sober is cool. Like, it's like that. But to this, the placebo effect of having this can in your hand, you're still like kind of part of it versus having a glass with a lime in it, right? You're kind of part of the group. And young kids, like the most, I'd say the biggest compliment I get is when a parent says, because of you, my kid wants to drink water. That is like the biggest compliment I could get. So we've capitalized on this. Like, think about it. Again, back to live music, right? Do we need to get out? The whole thing with this recycle thing is a sham, right? It's big oil. That's a whole other story, right? Where they claim that they're going to do this recycling. About 10% has probably been recycled, right? It's not, don't fall for that, right? But it was really scary when I dug deep about how this plastic problem. So if we can do this, these are infinitely recyclable. I've been around, literally, if you look at this, 1888, 75% is still in current use. So it's legit. So we're putting our money where our mouth is. We're going to have fun with it, but we're going to have a legit cause. So we have 3, well, it was 3, now it's down to 2 charitable partners, one of which I'm on the board of. It's Pangea Seed out of Hawaii. But 5 gyres, literally every month, we cut them a check. They go and scoop plastic out of the ocean. And the Thirst Project has nothing to do with our cans, has nothing to do with the brand. It's actually to build wells for impoverished nations, just give some people some water. So we're putting where our money where our mouth is. It's not all just marketing. We're really, Mike has always had his heart in the right place. So we decided that, you know what, let's have fun. We realized that, and Mike figured this out, that you can actually put stamps, go with me here, on a coconut. If you have enough postage on a coconut, the Postal Service will send it. So the idea is we made a bunch of prepaid labels that for the mailroom at Coke and the mailroom at Pepsi. So if you find garbage on the ground, it would mail right back to their mailroom, which pissed them off, which is exactly what we wanted. Because they're the biggest polluters on the earth. So we did this thing finding loving hospitable plastic. And it's funny, a buddy of mine works at Pepsi. He's like, dude, your name came up the other day. I'm pissed. I'm like, yes. So that's the example. So here's the first trade show ever. Look at that. Look at that. It's a coffin that was taken off eBay. And we turned it into a cooler. And you look closely, there's this little metal tab that we had to get at Home Depot. But that was it. Look at it, shrink wrapped. That's Mike. And then that's Pat Cook, who I'll get to later. But that was the first trade show, 2019. Crazy, huh? So we thought, hey, I can't afford a snowcat, but I decided thought we need a promo vehicle. So this is actually in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. Like, I came back, we found this it was in a church parking lot. And had it redone because it didn't run. God, it smells horrible in there too. And redid it, and I call it the Thirst Hearse. So we made this coffin that comes out of the back, and you can pull cans out of it. So we'd show up at events and pull in. So this is what it looks like now. So that's our Thirst Hearse that we have, which is still flying around LA as we speak. That's outside the first hotel that ever took us, Hotel Ziggy. I think it's on Sunset Boulevard. Still running to this day. We're building this culture, right? But the picture on the right is the one that means the most. You got little kids who are excited about drinking water. They feel like they're doing something naughty, but they're hydrating. So that's one means a lot. But again, building culture. Music, again. So the drum, this is Mattel, you probably heard of him. The drummer, Lars, is their business mind, and he snuffed us out. James, the lead singer, has been struggling with sobriety. And they approached and said, we want to invest in Liquid Death, which is just like, you can't put a price tag on that. So they came in, and they're investors, and they bring us on tour, which is amazing. Yeah, and again, they're all business, these guys. It's so funny. I shouldn't be telling you this, but I'm going to. So I have to ship stuff to them, but they all have aliases. And the guitar player, Kirk, lives in Hawaii, and he goes by Saul Rosenberg, just so you know. That's where I send all his stuff. Anyway, so we have, with that, this momentum's gaining, and here's the artist Wiz Khalifa. That is the comedian Bill Burr. That's at Fenway Park, believe it or not. He's an investor. So it's just started like gaining this momentum. We're like, wow, like we got to manage this. It's not what you know, it's who you know. I got product to the Colorado Avalanche when they won the cup because it was at a hospital actually for kids, and you can't be crushing beers in a hospital. So we did it for the kids. Okay, so remember I mentioned Tony Hawk earlier? So that's Tony. And he decided he wanted to invest, and I just reminded him who I was, and he was like, oh my God, our circle's, again, closed. So to the right is this little Nas X who's also an artist. And there's a story behind it, but I'm going to play the campaign that we did with Tony. And you got to remember, this is the way Mike's mind works, is that we always want to have fun. That's the whole thing, is we want to smile and laugh and be idiots every day. And pitched this idea to Tony, and he went with it. And then I'll explain this photo. It'll have more context when I come back to it. So this is the ad we did with him.
Hey, what's up? I'm Tony Hawk, and I recently became an ambassador for Liquid Death Mountain Water. Apparently, I didn't read the fine print, and now Liquid Death officially owns my soul. And my blood, too? I don't know. It's very confusing. They're taking my blood, and we're going to use it for skateboard graphics. So they're going to mix my blood into the paint and do a limited run of skateboards using my real blood in the graphics. But some of the profits will go towards killing plastic pollution and to building skate parks in underserved communities. Yeah, so I guess go to liquiddeath.com to get skateboards with my blood in it. So wait, if you have my blood, that means you have my DNA.
Get the Liquid Death skateboard infused with 100% real Tony Hawk today. Wow, you can own your very own piece of Birdman, but hurry. Supplies are extremely limited, so visit liquiddeath.com/hawkblood right now.
All right, so we sold through those boards in minutes, and they all went to charity. But it was fun, and a lot of these, he was down to be a part of it. A lot of them want to stay relevant, so Tony was a really good sport, and again, it all went to, and you probably heard in there, I know there's a little muffled, that he does the Tony Hawk Foundation where he builds skate parks in cities, which is really cool. So back to this picture with Little Nas X. So Little Nas had done a shoe. I'm going to make a very long story short, where he put a little bit of his blood in it, but Nike came in and said, "There's no, you can't do that." And we did this, and then he jumped on social media and said, "How come this fool gets to do it in a skateboard and I can't do a shoe?" And we said, "Well," so he came and did an impromptu photo shoot with Tony. And you can't put a price tag on this thing, right? That's how this works. But he literally came out of nowhere and said, "I gotta meet this guy," and that was how that happened. It was literally in the afternoon. But like anything that's successful, right, you've got to be quick, you've got to be fast, you've got to be able to quick to market. And so we just jumped on it. And so that was a really, really happenstance there. Martha. So this is the way my life goes. I got to know her handlers and approached Martha. Martha Stewart won't get out of bed for under $1 million, right? She won't even sniff, right? So throw this idea around, we got to do something with Martha, but she wants to stay relevant as well. So pitched her on this idea, and little known fact about Laura, she doesn't like blood at all. As a matter of fact, she used to date Anthony Hopkins and cut it off after he did Silence of the Lambs because she just couldn't get it out of her head, him chowing people. So the other thing you gotta know about Martha when the shoot happened is that you're not allowed to smell. You can't have deodorant, you can't have anything, or she'll beat you down. Like, it's crazy time. Like, anyway, but she killed it. So we decided to do this campaign with her, and she was a great sport. But I do remember in the middle of the shoot, she said, "How in the F is this going to sell more water?" Well, oh geez, Martha. So here's what we did with Martha. Come on.
Hi, I'm Martha Stewart. I recently heard about an interesting new beverage company called Liquid Death. Don't worry, it's just water. And together, we've teamed up to create an utterly delightful candle. But a lot of people are asking me how he made them so realistic. Well, it's not easy. Each one is made by hand. I've got to admit, I've probably enjoyed making these a little too much. Nothing's more realistic than my limited edition Dismembered Moments luxury candle. So be sure to visit martha.com to get your very own before they sell out. Okay, bring in the next one.
I can't believe we're going to be on the Martha Stewart show.
Come here, sweetie.
Martha.
You're going to want to get your hands on one.
So we sold out a lot of candles if you guys want to buy one. We didn't sell as many as we thought. I got one for you, Dr. Ann, for your I want that every interview. I want that front and center. So then we thought, all right, you shoot for the stars, you land on the moon. So we said we're going to do a Super Bowl ad. And I know you're probably like, wait a second, you're a startup, how can you afford it? We couldn't. But we called in some favors. We had friends at NBC, whatever, and had this idea of let's really turn this up a notch. And the way it works in the Super Bowl, unbeknownst to any of us, that the closer you are to kickoff, the more expensive it is. The farther along it goes, the cheaper it is. So we threw it out there and said we want to be around halftime. The background with this is, you're going to hear there's a heavy, the theme of it is a heavy metal song by a band called Judas Priest. So we approached the band, we couldn't afford it, so we actually had to have one of our investors play it in his garage. And Mike, his wife, did all the editing, and we did this at an employee's house with their children. So it's really on the cheap. But we were able to do it, but the crazy things happened. NBC placed us right after kickoff for halftime, and it blew up. And so much so that they actually gave us a free slot on Saturday Night Live, which is, again, these things is just serendipitous how this happens. So here's the ad that we played. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but, oh geez, I need to do that. Sorry. What am I doing here? Is this, oh, there it is. Okay, wait.
Breaking the law, breaking the law. 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 Breaking the law, breaking the law.
That's my only Super Bowl ad I've ever done in my life. Never thought. So then we thought, as we stirring the pot, so to speak, we started getting, as you do at anything successful, right? Anyone, whatever top of the mountain you're at, you can start getting haters. And in my opinion, if you got some haters, you're doing something right. So, again, Mike's idea, we basically did 3 albums, and they're called Greatest Hates. And all of the lyrics are hate comments from social media. So thank you, everyone, for hating, because we made albums. So on that note, again, Mike goes, hey, let's take it up a notch again. You got enough people hating on us. So I got an idea. So he has this idea, blind taste test. So these people said, your water sucks, it tastes horrible, whatever. And Mike said, well, oh, really? All right. Well, we'll give you $1,000. We'll fly you out to California and give you $1,000 if you can pick which one of these is Liquid Death, because you hate us so much and you say that it sucks. So this went down. This is super funny, in my opinion. Here we go. Thanks, Ryan. Yeah. Sorry.
East co-star of my
Yeah. Whatever, dude. Yeah. All right.
Liquid Death water took over the as the worst water.
Literally the worst water I have ever tasted.
Can we go ahead and get him wired up? We're just gonna put that right on the scan. Make sure it's up all the way.
Now it is.
Okay, cool, thanks. Okay, go ahead.
I'm not noticing too big of differences.
That one didn't taste like anything.
Definitely gonna have to double back.
Oh man.
Forgot what the first one tastes like.
Like the differences are very, very subtle.
So I guess worst one, huh?
Pick the worst water.
Okay. I think it was it, no, one of these was really bad, but it was in...
I think this is the Liquid Death.
Oh. Ah! Oh, okay. All right. Oh, man.
You were wrong.
Yeah, very wrong.
I guess Liquid Death isn't the worst water out here.
It's not bad. I guess I was wrong. Not the worst water I've ever tasted.
I'm sorry. I will buy y'all's product now.
Liquid Death, officially not the worst water two guys from the internet have ever tasted.
Right. So, tase test. If you guys have ever been tased, it's gnarly. So here we are today. The people that laughed 4 years ago now are hearing us. I spent a few bit part of the end of last year in London, England, opening in the UK, hence Tesco. But no one would give us the time of day 4 years ago. But something happened in pandemic, which not many people know this story, is that when the world shut down, everyone's panic buying, right? You're going on Amazon and you're buying toilet paper, you're buying paper towels, buying whatever else. And by default, because we were considered essential, we got shoved at the front of the line on Amazon because everyone was buying all the water. So that happened. And then the other thing is Whole Foods took a chance. And Whole Foods, for a lot of people, that's the pinnacle at grocery, right? If you can make it in Whole Foods, you can make it anywhere. And slowly we started getting retailers interested, right? Because before, you all have to understand that when you see that 30 rack of water that you get at a gas station, retailers hate them, right? They take up all the space. There's very, very, very little margin. Look at the plastic problem, and that was the big thing. When I talk to people, I'm like, hey, do you want to be, after your festival, picking caps out of the grass on Monday? You want something that's infinitely recyclable, which, back to the kids. Sustainability is really, really important. It really, really is. So these retailers are starting to take us on, which has been amazing. And to walk in and see stuff like this, I never thought I'd ever see this. I think this is Publix in Florida, I want to say, or maybe. And back to Metallica, these guys invest in us. Target ended up doing custom cases with Metallica at Target. I never in a million years would have thought that would happen. And they blew through all of them. So all these things, it's like teaching my students, be cool. You never know when things are going to come back, right? Your relationships, whatever else, and it takes maintenance. It does. And I'm proud to say some of these people, these artists, were our friends, and they want to see us succeed, and they feel good about they're doing, something for the environment. Yeah, and that's a Whole Foods. It's like just unbelievable whenever I walk in and see something like this. So we also have broken into teas, and you'll see here, we call one armless Palmer, right? Just having some fun with it. Well, we got a cease and desist, right? Cease and desist, right? It's like, relax. It's, So the idea, and this is all Mike, and it was the, his, I gotta be honest, it wasn't Arnold's people. It was another company that these guys suck. And so we changed it to Dead Billionaire, which, if you're angry about that, relax. We're just having some fun, and I think some people take it a little too seriously. But the reason why I'm showing you this is that pick a fight, because we love a fight, and want to have fun and make you look like silly. So with that, I want to introduce you who Mike let me hire these people. So this is the marketing team that I brought in, but I need to point out something. Not anyone, maybe one person that I brought over from Pabst, which I'll never, none of these people have ever had a job before. I know that sounds weird, but they're all professionals at something else. But it's amazing what you can unleash with people who you've given an opportunity where they actually get dental, vision, equity, like what people will do, but they're professional at something else. And that's the beauty, is that they should be able to do whatever they want. I want you to continue your profession or other profession, but need you, hardest workers I've ever been around. So one of them, her name is Joanna, and Aamoth's mom. She's an adult actress. Killing it. New York City, Joanna Angel. I'm sure some of you have seen her. This is Jen Rozovic. She's the lead singer of band The Bomb Pops, travels the world. This is Blasco. That's a stage name. His real name is Rob Nicholson. But anyway, he's a bass player for Ozzy Osbourne. And now we'll be actually touring with Rob Zombie. He'll be playing in the Excel Center in August. So actually, I'm inviting him to go water skiing that day. That'll be fun. Pat Moore, pro snowboarder. Chris Cole. Oops. Now, Chris, oh, jeez. It means nothing to a lot of you, but he was 2-time Thrasher Skater of the Year. So the magazine in skateboarding is called Thrasher, but it's like the creme de la creme. If you're somehow become Thrasher Skater of the Year, that's once in a lifetime. Twice, this guy's royalty, right? But his street credibility, being that one of the most humble people you ever meet and one of the hardest workers. And the funny thing is, you're like, well, yeah, I expect he'd be in skateboarding. He actually is way into, he handles police and fire, he handles first responders, he handles armed forces. He's a pro skater, right? But you gave him that runway, and he ran with it. Paul Finnemore, he actually is from here. He went to Washburn High School. He is the reason why Wiz Khalifa, Machine Gun Kelly, Trippie Redd are investors in Liquid Death. He's a tour manager. Who would have thunk it, right? Anthony Gazel, he's actually, I think he's playing for Papa Roach now, touring drummer. It's like, knock yourself out, kid, and he kills it. Andrew Hurd, he's from Minnesota as well. I brought him over from Pabst, actually. I poached him from Pabst, but he handles all the artwork. Anything you see, the t-shirts, case art, I brought him over with me. Toby Morse, lead singer of the punk band H2O. Toby is straight edge, for those who don't know. Like, he literally has never eaten meat, never had alcohol, and he is so well connected, it's scary, that the people that he's in Los Angeles. And it's, again, you give people this opportunity who've never had one before. He had to make his own way. It's amazing when you get out of them. Pat Cook, oops, I mentioned him earlier. He is a bouncer. He ran a bar, and now he's the top sales guy. Like, he's a pit bull. But again, giving someone the opportunity to get out there and give him a chance. And then Ollie Russell Cohen, he is now handling, he's based in Portugal, he's a surfer, and he's based in Portugal, but he handles UK, EU, and Australia. Killing it. So with that, I am blessed to be the position I'm in, but it's not without the support of family and friends, but I do believe that I am here because of what, and this is going to sound chattery, but because of Blake. I mean, it's really what I learned here. So I'm humbled that you're here. I appreciate you all being here, and I think it's really cool you're all here to support Blake. So thank you for having me. I really, really appreciate that. And I'll leave you with this. Probably, I'm not into charts, but this just shows you I couldn't be more proud. We started in 2020 at 4.5 million, and last year our scan sales were almost $265 million from nothing. So it is possible, but you just got to surround yourself with the right people. But I just can't thank you enough for having me here today. So that is it.
I'll tell a quick story. I was at Target, and I had to text Steve the story, but I was by the water cooler, and I saw these two guys, and one guy was like, oh my gosh, they have Liquid Death. And the other guy was like, what's that? And he said, it's water. The other guy said, water? For $19 a case? And the guy said, it's fire. Who's ever described water as fire? I love it. We have just a few moments for questions. If anyone would have a question for Steve Nilsen. Yes, way in the back.
I'm a student at McAllister, recently just graduated, and I came today because for a class that I was with Ali here, I took a class with him and we did a presentation on liquid death. It was really exciting to get to learn about the company and the story. But the thing I was always wondering is, over the past 4 years with this immense growth and just success, how do you keep on staying nimble on your feet? And you said that a few minutes ago that you're still able to make these very quick decisions, with the connections you have and as a team. So could you just go into a bit how you just keep on staying, goofy, fun, quick on your feet? Because that's the most impressive part to me.
Yeah, I wish I had the magic bean for you, and I don't. It's like the saying I always use: you build that plane as you're flying it. That's the best way. But there's a lot of crappy stuff going on in the world right now. So if we can help people smile, that's it. We won, right? Now, obviously, you have a business to run. You got to keep your lights on. But I think it's keeping with the current what's going on in the world, but not making light of things because there's a lot of serious things happening. But just want people to be hydrating and smiling. But it's ever changing. There is no equation to that. It's literally like what. As Mike said, when we wake up, what's the dumbest thing we can do today? And that's literally it. What's the dumbest thing we can do? And if we can help people, smile and hydrate, so be it. But I wish I had a better answer for you, but it is literally ever evolving.
If you go to the Liquid Death website, there's a section that's called Time Waster 5000. So if you have time to waste, just go to the website. There's like a minute and a half cartoons of Murder Man murdering the thirst everywhere he goes. It's a great way to waste time. Any other questions from anyone? Yes, Mr. Morrison.
Does the water really come from the Swiss Alps?
Austrian, but no, truthfully, very good question. So that was one of the originally Mike had found this water source in Austria, which is very ironic because it's right down the street from Red Bull. It was founded in Fuschel, Austria. And it was that pure, and that was the whole point. Was we weren't selling snake oil; it was like legit spring water. So that's why you can look at the water purity tester on the website. But we actually found a water source in the United States, which is why we went from a 16.9, which is European sizing, to a 19.2, and we're actually coming out with a 12-ounce can now because consumers have asked for it. But yes, to answer your question, Ms. Morrison, it was the Austrian Alps, but we found another water source here in the United States, which saved us immensely with the shipping. Because that's the big thing, is everyone's of course like, oh, you're environmental, your carbon footprint with a ship. Well, actually, we did do the research on that, and it's less of a carbon footprint to load a ship full than it is to get a bunch of semis going from New York to LA. So because trust me, we had emissions people coming after us. So, but yes, very good question.
Are you able to partner with the recycling people a little more closely? Because I know the messaging about plastics being obviously are not doing well with their recyclability, but the cans are so much better. I don't think that gets a lot of press. I have heard that messaging a lot to pick the can over the plastic bottle.
Yeah, I mean, anywhere we can, we'd love to. I don't think there's no formal partnerships with anyone, but literally, we'd hope people would, that's the first thing they should do is recycle. But there isn't a specific I don't know who it is here in Minneapolis, but there isn't a specific recycling thing. We just
up to the company.
Exactly. So all we can do is we can't make people recycle, but we can at least put it in their brain, do some good, and it is infinitely recyclable. So that's it, but not a specific recycling, company per se.
One last question, right there.
Yeah, I read about fun marketing. I read about I don't want to call it stunt, but something you guys did on the back of your cases where you sold or to the highest bidder of who would buy ad space on your actual cases. I think Coinstar might have won it.
Yeah.
Maybe how did that come about? Can you just share?
Because we couldn't afford another Super Bowl ad. That's it. But what she's referring to is that we took the back of the cases and put it up for auction. Anyone could they'd have to bid for it to get their name or their brand or whatever on the back of the case, and then it would go to retail. But it was literally, it was Mike. It wasn't, I wish I could claim that. But Coinbase went in and then last minute swooped in and bid, big money. But it was literally, it was a tongue-in-cheek way to let someone come on, because it's flattering to hear people say, hey, Liquid Death, we want to be the next Liquid Death. And we're just joking, that's the real estate, that's all we had. So as much as I'd love to say we have these big budgets, we don't. So hope that answered your question.
Well, I know that a number of my friends could also share that when Steve first started at Liquid Death, he would send us boxes of the water. And all of us felt like we were first adopters.
You were?
We were, and I told my daughters they were actually influencers. I said, take these cans, drink them with your friends, let people know. And over the years, my daughters and I, we would start to notice. We would travel around like, oh my gosh, they're drinking Liquid Death. I had a text Steve, I said, oh my gosh, I saw it in Whole Foods. It's just been so fun to watch the progress of this company and to know that Steve is driving it from the rear. Can we give Steve one more round of applause here? One last comment before Bill gets up to close is please take your water with you.
Recycle.
Thank you, Steve. That was fantastic, and it brings a whole lot back, and I'm sure we all have a lot of Steve stories from the day. This concludes our last Breakfast at Blake for the season. Thank you to everyone for making this series so special. I hope you have a great summer. Look forward to seeing you next fall at our first Breakfast at Blake, which will be announced over the summer. Be well, stay in touch, and on behalf of the Blake Alumni Association, thank you again for participating today.
And if you're part of the class of '88, we'd like